And it's important to note that they're not just affecting any one union or any one group of people, but all Canadians. That's the Conservative vision. Under their policies, we're becoming the first generation that will leave less to our children than what we inherited from our parents. New Democrats will not let that happen. Collective bargaining is guaranteed by the Charter and by the Supreme Court of Canada. Collective bargaining benefits all Canadians. Better wages, workplace safety, a 40-hour work week, a weekend where you can actually be with your family. The list goes on, but the Conservatives are determined to dismantle it. They're undermining this right, and it's unprecedented in Canada. Air Canada, the government didn't even wait for a strike to begin to bring in legislation, didn't bother to allow negotiated settlement to happen. The Labour Minister says she will intervene in any dispute she feels impacts the economy. Last time I checked, every working Canadian contributes to the economy. That basically means no more rights. The Minister is saying no Labour negotiation is safe from Conservative interference. The approach is unbalanced, it's heavy-handed, it's against the Charter, and it will be enforced, but it'll take time. Taking sides helps no one. Sends a terrible message that legislative settlement is the new labour relations norm in Canada. No incentive for the parties to negotiate in good faith if they know the government will step in. Why would an employer who's already received the clear signal from the government, we saw it in Canada Post, we're seeing it again, what possible incentive do they have to bargain in good faith with their employees? They could just fold their arms and say, you're going to be forced back to work. We don't care. Of course, the government doesn't care either, but they're willing to do the bidding of any employer that asks. That's what we're here standing up against today, Madam Speaker. The government's creating a slippery slope where no one will get a fair deal. Canadians relied on collective bargaining rights for decades. The government must respect the right of future generations to live with the same security past generations have had. What we're leaving our children is a defining issue of our times. As I mentioned, the middle class is struggling like never before. Income disparity at levels not seen since the Great Depression. We are one of the richest countries in the world, and yet we're one of the countries with the greatest disparity between the richest and the poor. Ça vaut la peine de le remarquer. Entre les mieux nantis de notre société et les plus défavorisés, le gouffre au Canada est parmi les plus élevés au monde et ça ne fait que s'accentuer depuis que les conservateurs sont arrivés au pouvoir. On n'a pas vu ça depuis la dépression des années 20. La sécurité que les Canadiens ont déjà sentie commence à disparaître et ce n'est pas du hasard, c'est voulu. Regardons ce qui se passe au Saguenay, Rio Tinto Alcan, parce que quand ils ont acheté la société Alcan, ils n'ont pas seulement acheté des usines. Rio Tinto, une société étrangère, est devenu le propriétaire du lit de la rivière Saguenay. Pensons-y, là. Il faut que ça soit au bénéfice net du Canada, c'est écrit dans la loi, quand il y a une telle reprise de contrôle d'une société canadienne par les étrangers. Petite parenthèse, avant, il y avait un déclenchement d'une analyse à un certain niveau, maintenant il le porte à 1 milliard de dollars. Donc des choses qui étaient analysées auparavant ne le seront même plus. Mais regardons ce qu'ils ont fait, même quand ils ont fait des analyses. Ils ont coché bénéfice net du Canada pour la reprise d'Alcan par Rio Tinto. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Des autorités en Europe responsables de la concurrence ont dit, ben, telle partie qui fait des métaux super spécialisés, vous allez vous en départir. Pas de problème, ils le vendent à un Américain. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé après? Les Américains l'ont flippé à une entreprise aux Indes, une grande multinationale indienne. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Ils ont dit, c'est pas très bien là-bas, on va le déménager aux États. Les emplois perdus du jour au lendemain. Aucune protection des travailleurs. C'est ça, l'attitude des conservateurs. Rio Tinto est encore en... regardez bien ce qui se passe là. Ils sont encore en lockout chez Rio Tinto, à Alma. Ils en ont cure. Pour eux autres, c'est comme un avertissement. Les barbares arrivent, ils démolissent le village, ils laissent les gens à l'entrée du village, ils disent « Regardez bien le modèle qui s'en vient, vous avez intérêt à vous ranger. » C'est ça qu'ils sont en train de faire, de démanteler, de détruire des décennies, des générations de protection qui aide à toute la société en démantelant tout notre système de protection des droits sociaux et des droits des travailleurs. Let's look at the Conservative net benefit, shall we? We've just looked at Rio Tinto Alcan in Alma in the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region. Workers have been on lockout for 6 months. Net benefit for Canada have everybody locked out, Madam Speaker. Inco, the Conservatives approved the takeover by Brazil's Vale in 2006. Vale proposes in 2009 to end defined benefit pensions for new employees. Then the USWA goes on strike, and it lasts nearly 1 year. That's the future for workers under the Conservatives. Falconbridge, Swiss-based mining company Xstrata, absorbs Falconbridge in 2006. Takeover deal says no layoffs for 3 years. 2009, Xstrata lays off 700 people. 700 families lose their living because they don't understand that a net benefit means not just a net benefit for the shareholders, but also a net benefit for the families that work there. Here's one of the best illustrations of the Conservatives' approach. And I'll start with a reference to what happened during the 2011 general election, because our current Prime Minister went out and visited a lovely company in London, Ontario called Electromotive Diesel. He used it as a backdrop. He used it as a model. As a matter of fact, since there was nothing that they wouldn't do, during the election they touted a $5 million tax break. No strings attached. You don't have to create any work. You can just take the $5 million. That was what he did during the 2011 election campaign. Because, you see, a U.S. company called Caterpillar had bought Electromotive Diesel in 2010. So what happened in the months that followed? January 2012, 450 Electromotive Diesel employees are locked out. Why? Well, because they were being unreasonable. Because they were only being asked to take a 50% pay cut. And that was all part of the money. After all, the company had been given $5 million, so they were only asking for 50%. Otherwise, it must have been 60% they were thinking of. February 2012, just a few months ago, the plant is closed. The operations moved. What a net benefit for Canada. The government has announced plans last week to raise takeover review to $1 billion, and there'll be even more reckless foreign takeovers that'll fly under the radar. Other working Canadians are forced to fight for their pension funds that they paid into for their golden years. Moi, je me souviens, quand le Premier ministre s'est levé pour dire qu'il ne toucherait pas aux pensions, ça c'est une de mes fourberies préférées de la part de ce gouvernement. Le Premier ministre a dit, on ne toucherait pas aux pensions. Quand ils ont ajouté 2 ans de travail et soutiré $12 000, le ministre des Finances s'est levé et a dit, wow, we said we wouldn't touch pensions. We never said we wouldn't touch old age security. As if for the average Canadian it wasn't one and the same thing, their revenue when they were going to retire. Unprecedented attacks on workers, unprecedented attacks on the middle class. That's the legacy of the Conservatives. That's why we're here standing up today, Madam Speaker.